Hello and welcome. This is NTA Tuesday Live, and I'm Cyril Stober. Tonight, we'll be discussing the energy mix. Now, Nigeria's energy mix is seen as work in progress, with a focus on diversifying beyond oil. The country is pushing for gas monetization, with plans to increase gas production and utilization, including the Nigeria-Morocco gas pipeline and the Trans-Saharan pipeline. Now, this shift is expected to drive growth, with gas projected to play a significant role in the country's energy transition and industrialization efforts. Now, let's look at some figures that might explain what we're talking about here. The current energy mix: oil at 1.84 million barrels per day. That's the production target for 2026. Gas, focus on increasing production and utilization with 1.29 billion standard cubic feet per day. The supply contract has been signed for that. Now we come to the renewables. We just like to say there's a 36% is projected by 2030. And when it's solar, let's talk about the potential, which is about 427 gigawatts. So these are the issues we're considering tonight on the energy mix for sustainable development. But before we get into the conversation, let's get to see this report put together by energy correspondent Lydia Sampson.
OPEC Secretary General Haytham Al-Hayes explains why, despite popular belief that oil is being phased out, all energy sources will continue to play a crucial role.
Yes, with a continued focus on decarbonization and reducing emissions around the world. But to push the narrative that one source of energy can simply replace another is misguided, in our opinion.
Like other OPEC members, Nigeria is diversifying its energy portfolio, leveraging every available resource to power its future.
We cannot decarbonize to poverty. Rather, we should be allowed to use the realities of our own nations to develop into providing energy and guarantee energy security to the people.
Currently, Nigeria's oil and gas production averages around 1.6 million barrels per day of crude oil and condensate in 2025, slightly below government targets, but output is climbing. By the end of the year, production is expected to reach 1.7 million barrels or more per day as new rigs come online.
We are also, creating, investment climate, both the regulatory framework, both the fiscal framework, so that we could be globally competitive.
The federal government is determined to raise crude production to 2 million barrels per day within the next 2 years and push further to 3 million barrels per day by 2030, an effort aimed at stimulating economic growth. Meanwhile, natural gas is emerging as the quiet workhorse of Nigeria's energy landscape. Daily production reached about 7.5 billion standard cubic feet in 2025, a sharp rise from 2023, with domestic supply surpassing 2 billion standard cubic feet per day for the first time in history. It is no surprise that Nigeria's energy transition plan designates natural gas as the key bridge fuel. Cleaner and more flexible than oil, gas will lead the way where large-scale renewables are gradually developed. Achieving these goals will require strong regulations, collaborative partnerships, and a favorable investment climate.
We are enablers for the industry, and without a shadow of doubt, we know that the industry is the heartbeat of the national economy. And so we are committed to ensure that things work properly and that the industry grows astronomically.
Industry experts agree monetizing Nigeria's vast gas reserves for power generation, industry, and household use will reduce flaring and enhance energy security, paving the road to net zero emissions by 2060. The renewed strategy is clear: grow crude production for revenue while simultaneously expanding gas for domestic power and industrial use, and gradually deepening renewable energy adoption, particularly solar, through mini-grids in underserved communities.
It also reduces the opaqueness that has hindered efficiency in the past and aligns Nigeria with international best practices.
We will remain dedicated to supporting policies that ensure energy security, drive industrialization.
For Africa's largest economy, this evolving energy mix isn't just about fuel. It is the key to unlocking jobs, boosting industrialization, and achieving inclusive, sustainable growth.
All right, that report sets the tone for tonight's discussion. Let's get to meet our guests. Welcome to this program, Dr. Umar Bindir, is a former Director General of the National Office for Technology Acquisition and Promotion, the National Office for Technology Acquisition and Promotion, NOTAP. Is also a former Secretary to the Adamawa State Government. Dr. Bindir, thanks for being here.
It's a pleasure as always.
All right, good
Thank
to see
you,
you. Right. Let me also welcome tonight Professor Magnus Onoha. He is President, Governing Council, Renewable Energy and Energy Efficiency Association Alliance. Thanks for joining us tonight.
Thank you, Siri. Thanks for having me.
Right. We like to also welcome tonight Shitu Mohammed Kabir. Is an industrialist and chairman, SMK Group. We thank you for being here with us. Let me also introduce another of our guests. He joins us via Zoom. Is Senator John Owen Eno, is the Honorable Minister of State Industry. He joins us via Zoom. Minister, thanks for being here.
Thank you, Cyril. Good evening.
Good evening. Oh, well, so tonight it's about the energy mix and talking about sustainable development. We hopefully won't be the only ones talking in the studio at some point in time. We hope to bring in the people who are with us via phone calls, and we also do have some reports which we'll be showing as we progress. But let's come back to the basics, the energy mix. And for that, let's get a definition of what the energy mix is actually in the context of sustainable development. Shall we ask the President of the Governing Council of Renewable Energy and Energy Efficiency Association Alliance to define for us this energy mix?
Thank you, Story. In a layman's language, words, energy mix is a combination of non-renewable energy sources and renewable energy sources. What I mean by non-renewable fossil fuel in the form of oil and gas, that's, oil and gas, coal. These are sources that are not replaceable. Then the renewable energy sources are the one that is replaceable, that is renewable. The solar, wind, biomass, hydro, and all that in a mix. And if within the context of Nigeria, we have an act, Electricity Act, is the Bible or the Quran of our mix, energy mix. Okay, and what is expected is that states are supposed to do what we call resource mapping. If you have solar like what we put in Northwest or Northeast, it becomes your priority. In the Niger Delta, it comes out natural gas. It becomes a priority. Even in the Benue Basin and the Enugu State, there is coal. But there is a condition precedent. In this era of decarbonization, we are moving towards low carbon resource efficient trajectory. The energy must be clean. We can decarbonize coal. We can decarbonize natural gas, what we call through a carbon capture sequestration. So what I'm trying to say is that the mix is an opportunity for us to, we can be fixated in oil and gas. It's an opportunity for us to each state, and that's why as much as, I know why I moved into Electricity Act, we are talking about devolution. Each state should, by now, should have mapped out resource mapping and see their priorities. So for sustainable development, sustainability is about what I addressed, the 5 Ps. Initially, it was 3 Ps, people, in terms of social component, prosperity, in terms of economic growth, and the planet, in terms of ecological biodiversity. But by 2015, we added partnership and peaceful coexistence. So that's what sustainability is all about. And I'm glad our president is Abu Dhabi talking about sustainability. So sustainability, for 1 megawatt of solar you deploy, there are over 3,000 jobs in the value chain. So that's what employment, in terms of employment creation, in terms of livelihood building, in terms of poverty alleviation. So the mix gives us an opportunity in this emerging trend of the renewable energy trend. The mix gives us an opportunity, state opportunity to grow. So don't be fixated into oil and gas. Okay. That's just what, by way of this.
All right, it was deliberate to ask you to do this, because when I look at your association, you say Renewable Energy and Energy Efficiency Association Alliance. So ordinarily you would say you are the guys who are pushing for the renewables, not the non-renewables.
Absolutely.
That's where the bias is.
But we also, at COP26 in Glasgow, we made effort, yes, we made effort to incorporation of natural gas as a traditional fuel to drive our sustainable future.
Okay, so because but anyway, we'll come to more details about that. But Dr. Umar Bindir, let's hear from you.
Well, for me, if you look at the topic of discussion, you have 4 keywords. You have energy, you have the mix, you have sustainable, and you have development. Now, in the context so that the common man can understand exactly where is the arrow pointing here. First is about development. We like to enjoy ourselves. It would be nice not to have poor people in Nigeria. It would be nice to have very vibrant young people with skills, producing, manufacturing, adding value, and earning money. It will be nice to see roads, good roads, very bright houses, televisions everywhere. And it will also be nice to have all these things working so much so that all other countries in the world respect Nigeria. When you talk about this country, you say, oh, this is a fantastic country. This is development. Now, if you reach this level and you go to sleep, you will die again. So in order to keep it going forever, that is the sustainability. So there must be things that you will continue doing so that poverty doesn't creep back, so that your young people do not lose skills, or they must have more skills, or then you do not have other people thinking Nigeria. So to do this and to reach this level, there is no cutting corners that you need energy. You need a lot of energy. Imagine to boil your water. That ring you have on your stove consumes 3 kilowatts. This is technical. And you need to spend 30 minutes or whatever before your water boils. For you to do that, you have to pay, if you are in band A, 65 naira per hour. This is how you see. So a lot of people in Nigeria have over 200 million. Everybody wants hot water. Everybody wants electricity. So the energy requirements is so huge that you cannot just say, only oil will provide all that energy. Oil can only give you this bit. And then you say, can you say only gas? Gas also cannot fit that. So bring the oil to give you a little bit. Bring the gas to give you a little bit. Bring the solar to give you a little bit. It is these bits that you put together to give you the gamut of power that will make you low poverty country, that will make you productive country, and they'll make you a happy and respected country. This is how I see the energy mix for development, and you have to maintain it so that you can sustain it.
Well, we have an industrialist here who is chairman of the SMK group, and we would say, by the mere definition as an industrialist, it means you're one of the big energy consumers.
Right.
Am I right about
You are
that?
right.
And therefore, this should be of interest to you.
Yes. When you are talking of energy mix in terms of industrialization, you see that in the energy mix, we are talking of de-emphasizing the petroleum, the oil. And then we are looking at, okay, let's put more emphasis into the issue of renewable energies, where we are talking of solar, where we are talking of other renewables. And then we are also now talking, okay, you cannot just de-emphasize the fuel until you are able to put up these renewable and other factors. And some people are even saying we should go to nuclear, because nuclear gives you the bigger, more efficient electricity, which we must also start talking in this country, because we can go into peaceful nuclear energy, which is the best for the country industrialization. And then we are 222 million Nigerians. You find out that when you are talking of energy mix, some industries can say, okay, in the morning, in the daytime, we can talk of renewable energies like the solar. And then we can now talk, okay, in the lower hour time, we can, in the process of de-emphasizing the oil, we can now bring the oil to the lower, maybe in the night. And then we can also now start talking of, okay, let me give you an example of Idu Industrial Cluster, in which the Honorable Minister visited. In Idu Industrial Cluster, we look at it that it is necessary, because you have both medium industries and large-scale industries, where in the medium area, we said, okay, let's power them with gas. Okay, in those that are large scale, let's power them both with gas and also renewable. And then while you have that energy mix, it gives efficiency to the factories, because we now have three levels of energy. So if one does not work at a time, the other one will work at a time. You will have 99.9 efficient in the industrialization. And then when you come to Nigeria, let's forget about industry and go to social life. You find that if for you to power the rural populace in Nigeria today, you need the renewable energies, the solar, and then the farmers and co can now be talking of bioenergy. And if we, so that gives rooms to every aspect of industries according to your level that you can now operate. The cement factories, this can now also go on gas, and then we can now be talking of grid, where some of the industry will also key into the grid. And I was very, very happy. I was in Qatar on a table discussing this energy matter, and I got a call from my factory that the Honorable Minister is in mind. So that gave me a lot of, so I put it on this, and before you know it, they look at, okay, this is Nigerian energy needs, and they look how huge and how profitable it is. So you find that Nigeria is one big market, as Mr. President is campaigning today in Dubai, Abu Dhabi. So that we need to invest into this, and I want to encourage us that we must also be looking at nuclear energy.
All right. We'll talk about that in the appropriate time. But let's come to the Minister of State Industry. And Minister, perhaps one of the biggest challenges to industrialization in this country is the matter of energy. And from the discussions here, And of course, from what's out there, which I'm sure you're quite familiar with, being the one who superintends over industry, this perhaps is an apt discussion we're having tonight. But let's hear from your point of view, in fact, for the matter of policy and where we are today in this energy mix.
Yeah, thank you, Cyril. I mean, I've listened to the conversation thus far. I mean, what I can say is that for us, from the point of view of industry, I mean, we look at energy as an industrial input, because for us, what matters to industry and to manufacturing is, the availability of energy, I mean, reliability, and the predictability, of all of that. And I think that if we understand energy as industrial input, it is the extent to which this industrial input, that comes by way of energy, assists us in terms of the affordability of power and energy. And to that extent, how all of these contributes to job creation, contributes to our industrial competitiveness, contributes to a whole gamut of all of that. And I think that, quite appropriately, you're right, that the big elephant in the room is actually energy and power. I remember one of the first things that I did as Minister of State for Industry was to put together what I call the Industrial Revolution Work Group. And the work of that work group thus far has zeroed down into identifying some 5 thematic areas, that are the greatest challenges and constraints to industrial growth and development. And the first of them all is energy. And I remember that sometime in December, I convened the first in a series of ministerial roundtables that looked at energy. So our understanding and appreciation of energy mix in this context is in terms of, blended energy, blended power, is in terms of the fact that I think we've gone beyond having to look at, maybe one system, fitting every, requirement to a blend of various energy and power sources, in terms of grid power, in terms of gas, in terms of renewables, in terms of solar. So what it is that, looking at different energy solutions for different industrial realities, whether it is looking at industrial clusters, like in the case of Idu. Whether I went to Idu because, arising from the ministerial roundtable on energy, we identified the Idu industrial cluster as one case, that we want to see, what government efforts can be in terms of attracting, reliable and affordable power to that cluster as a basis, as a test case to see how we can replicate this across the country. So the idea there for our understanding is that, there has to be an admixture of all of these, grid power, gas, power, and renewable, a combination of all of these. There are some instances and some industrial, zones that, solar power is going to be apt, is going to be adequate, is going to be available. There are some other instances, like in terms of, again, industrial clusters, in terms of, agro zones that, gas. And I'm glad that, at the beginning of this discourse, you underscored the country's, huge, gas potentials. And the others that, if we could have grid power across the country, and everywhere, that would be, that would be key. But as long as we still grapple with the challenges of energy and power, that is the extent to which blended power solutions become key. And that, for industry, is our own understanding and characterization of energy mix within the context of our discussions here.
All right, thanks so very much, Minister. I will return to you and find out how developed are these sources of energy, because easily, for now, the one that we're keeping an eye on that eventually would be de-emphasized would be those stemming from fossil fuels, like we started this conversation. But again, there are those who would argue that, yes, cleaner energies and all that, but how much progress has Nigeria made towards that? It's not, of course, in the matter of the MOUs and the projections that are made, but what actually is on ground. And speaking about the current energy sources, Dr. Binder, what actually is on ground? Yes, we have all these projections. Some of them, of course, by 2024, Nigerians were expected to have begun to reap the benefits. We do not know the status at this point in time.
Well, you see, to the average Nigerian, when you talk about energy, he concentrates on the supply of electricity, basic. And he needs light, as we colloquially say. First of all, domestically, and then on the industrial sector, they need also that energy, that power, to power their equipment for their production, and so on and so forth. So the idea is, yes, it's good to say we have oil as a source, as a material that you can use to provide energy. And we have gas. The first thing is to estimate what really do we have in terms of quantum. What is the oil? What is the gas? What is the coal we have? And then turn around and utilize it to generate this energy. So your question is literally saying, where are we now? Are we using oil? Are we using gas? And I can tell you, for the electricity generation, I'm not particularly in this area. I mean, possibly the president himself will. But I know this as an engineer. Our major generators for electricity are actually gas-powered turbines. And then the smaller hydros that are dotted all over the place. These are the two major producers of our electricity. And for me, as a technocrat, as a technologist, as an engineer, the regret of where we are is that nearly 100% of the technologies required in these two production industries are actually foreign. We don't manufacture turbines in this country. We don't estimate and build plants in this industry. It is always in partnership to go out and look at people who have capability in this and then bring it back. And then we start now building up our plants. The idea is to say, Nigeria, we need energy. We have gas. Is it possible for us to also have the capacity and the capability to utilize this gas to produce this electricity? My answer is yes, we can. But then there are many other parameters that can actually translate that yes, we can into reality.
Again, that takes us to the question of sustainability. When you speak of this, easily anyone would say that's not sustainable in the long run. So here we are with what we have. A large proportion of it, particularly for electricity supply, is driven by gas turbines and hydro. But one other issue which we would like you to bring in this mix, since we are about the matter of the energy mix now, it's not just solar alone, wind. And of course, as Dr. Shitu has said, we should begin to look into nuclear, which many people are quite uncomfortable with for very good reason.
Yeah, but before I go into that, let me just address, I think I totally align myself with the Honorable Minister of State's position on blended power solution. Blended power, just like what Chairman of Industrial, you do industrial, it's about the hybrid. I know why I go back to Electricity Act of 2023. You know, when you talk about blended power, you're making a statement of, okay, let's do resource mapping. Let's do mapping, and so that we'll put it in scale. You know, what to call a scale of preference, okay? Economics of scale. So if it is good to do hybrid, natural gas at night and solar in the day, you know, the idea is for you to enable to have energy access and security. So that's what blended power and hybrid mechanism will help us to address. And I still go back to state governments. You know, this devolution, as a matter of fact, how many state governments have done resource mapping? How many? Not, if I can count, not up to 4 or 5. Enugu State, Lagos State, Edo State, yeah, 2 other states. Integrated resource mapping. So I told to talk about the blended power because it's only when you have, because they don't have the capacity. I'm sorry to say it. It's about capacity training. For us to have energy and security, you must do resource mapping. And it is there, integrated resource, it's there in the Electricity Act. So I'm sure when the Honourable Minister went to Edo, what he's thinking is blended, just like he said, blended power source. You know, so that's it. Let us be intentional about capacity building in terms of making sure these states sit down. Most of them are grandstanding. I'm sorry to say it. You know about we have electricity regulatory system and all. Go and sit down. Have you done your resource mapping to enable you? So that's the challenge I give to the states. And I give the local government autonomy because I talking about sustainable development. Do you know that a local government can say we have this power under blended power? Imo State, between local government, we can have a blended power solution within that local government. You know, that's look at the in terms of scale of preference. Which one am I blending solar with natural gas or wind and all that? So then going to nuclear. Look, it's a function of develop. Do you have the capacity right now? You know, there is fear, but there's no cause to fear. No cause to. It's only when you have a WAP mindset. When you have an energy mix, keep an open mind. In all the mix, don't just have a WAP mindset to say nuclear is not good. I'm not trying to justify nuclear for now. What's our state of technology? Do we have the capacity right now? These are questions that we need to, another conversation for another day, so to speak, yeah.
And with the chairman of SMK, who's here with us, and started the conversation about the benefits of blended energy for an industrial hub, such as the one you belong to. Let's hear from you.
Yes, if you are using fossil fuel, which is oil, coal, and other things, they are very, very expensive compared to gas. I think the most cheapest for today is the gas. Then solar can also complement, but the first investment on solar, and then you must also now have a solar farm. Cost of maintaining the solar farm and initial cost that you may not get the return on investment until after 10, 15 to 20 years. That is on the solar. So yes, over time you get it. Then, but what you gain in this is that you will have stable production. 99% assure that you can, if you in the night, as I earlier emphasized, you know that the fossil fuel are costly, so you bring them to the night when it's low distance. Then you look at your gas infrastructure and also grid for the day, because that is when you are really on your. Then in the night you can now fall back to the fossil fuel, which are cheaper, and then we can say, okay, that will be like the 5% of your energy consumption.
Okay. Let me put this matter of cost to the minister who's with us here. After that, we'll come back to Professor Honora. Let me go to Minister, the matter of this cost. And yes, as desirable as this mix is, you heard the bit about the cost of it, initial cost and the maintenance cost, which has been reiterated by the industrialists here, and the fact that a lot of the components you need for what we are looking at still are imported. Yes, Minister, are you with us?
Yes, please. I mean, you're talking about cost of energy.
Right. And the fact that, yes, for where we intend to go to, the renewables, a lot of the input is still imported.
Well, yes, unfortunately, that is the case, but our country is progressing. I mean, we're not going to remain, where we are in terms of our present state of either development or manufacturing or industrialization. Fortunately, I mean, as a country, we're able to, get, federal government, the Federal Executive Council to approve the Nigerian industrial policy. I mean, the key in that policy is how to attain the very highest level of industrial growth and manufacturing. And all of these, whether it is in terms of light manufacturing, the different facets of manufacturing and all that, are all, anticipated, are all implicated in that document in terms of our industrial policy. So we are determined as a government, to get this new policy implemented. As I speak to you, I mean, we're developing an implementation framework, for it. So what it is that the answer to, the continuous and present, importation of a lot of the components that we need, even in terms of the renewables, is that as a country, we need to get more productive. We need to see how we can process more. We need to see how industry's contribution to the GDP, goes into, double digits. As all of this takes place, of course, we're going to be able to replace a lot of those importations. But what I can also say right away is that there's also at the moment quite a lot of, in-country, availability in terms of various people that are actually also manufacturing and producing some of these components. There are several of these manufacturers that have actually approved the ministry and are requiring that government take some decisions, some policy and action decisions that can protect what they're doing. Because given the level of, progress, the level of the various manufacturing that is going on, they can least compete with the foreign, imported goods, imported components, that are still being allowed into the country. But as a ministry, we're also concerned and being careful. We need to be able to, appreciate, whether the level of meets a certain threshold.
Okay. All right. Well, Minister, apologies. We'll return to you. Right now, there are challenges with this is freezing, but we'll try and fix that and return to you in just a moment. But then, Prof, you take it up from here.
Yes. An incentive mechanism for us to to address the upfront costs, whether it's from the renewable or non-renewable. There's an incentive mechanism, and that's what Mr. President is marketing and preaching at Abu Dhabi for sustainability. What we call the carbon market framework, which Nigeria have developed. The interesting thing is that the government is taking leadership. The implication is that Nigeria has, even though our NDC, what we call national determined contribution, is economy-wide now, but it's a 7-sector NDC type. Industries, they're under IPPU, power, oil and gas and all that. Now, this mechanism is for you to deploy renewables. You are making a statement of reduction of emission reduction. And under the Paris Agreement, it's an incentive for you to earn money, additional revenue. When in that additional revenue, it might reduce the tariff. It has the tendency to reduce tariff. And that is the carbon market framework, which Mr. President is preaching. And I must say it here, even though it has not been launched, the Federal Ministry of Industry, Trade and Investment has also developed what's called the Carbon Market Action Plan, Climate Action Plan. I'm just coming. Okay. And I'm sure they have mapped 24 stakeholders, industry stakeholders, where on which one of the colleague here is one of the Indorama. Some of them are intensive industry that has a high emission responsibility. Is an opportunity to drive the process, to let them know, expose them to carbon market opportunities so that they can earn revenue and be part of, because production is 60% of emission comes from energy system, that 8 come from environmental, that's the fugitive emission and all that. So the industry is very critical as we begin to champion climate change and all of that. So Nigeria, all these sectors, stakeholders, private sectors must key into this carbon market framework, which actually earn additional revenue in the process and help to reduce tariff in the energy.
All right, I understand that the line with the minister has been re-established, so we'll just return to him, as he was saying just before it froze. Yes, Minister.
Actually appreciate where you couldn't hear me anymore. But let me just, what I was saying so I conclude is that, we need to be able to get to, be able to determine, how much in country, some of these components and the equipment, are being manufactured. We have to be able to direct an informed policy decision about how much protection they need to have. The other thing is that even in terms of the importation of these components and all of that, I think that we have in place what we call IDEC, Import Duty Exemption Certificates, that in itself, the implication of these for companies that benefit from IDEC is that it's able to reduce their production cost and their importation cost in such a manner as to reflect in terms of the pricing of what they eventually are able to produce and all of that. So a lot of these things are, all together are supposed to help, reduce the rising and increasing cost of these components that in themselves that we need to be able to assure and guarantee for industry, reliable energy, affordable energy, and energy that makes industrial, production competitive enough, especially in an era where the entire Africa is now one common market, in terms of the AFCFTA, just so that our goods and services that are produced here are able to compete with others that are produced from other countries of Africa.
All right, thank you, Minister. And back here, Dr. Bindir. All these we've heard, and calls for more investment. But again, the other aspect of it is having the technology. Initially, when Prof was talking, he spoke about mapping and even developing the resource, the human resource for these.
Actually, one of the greatest projects undertaken by this country, possibly in the last 10, 15, 20 years, is the NIPP project, the concept which brings state governors into this. And they identify the idea of pooling resources together, subjecting it to just power generation, establish power plants all over the place. And the project was going, I don't know at this stage where they are now, but yes, you have to import to start with. Yes, you have to sign joint ventures with countries that have done this very well to start with. But there must be synergy of policies to ensure that we too, our learning trajectory matures. We work together with you now to provide this energy and power to our country. But gradually, we will also domesticate the know-how. We will domesticate the technology, and so on and so forth. And to do this, I'm very happy to see my very good friend, the Honorable Minister of State Industries here. The industrial policy itself must not just talk about manufacturing, employment, and so on. It must also talk about a timeline to say when in Nigeria we can manufacture generators, in Nigeria when we can manufacture our own gas turbines, and so on and so forth. So from the learning process when we're working with others, and it goes through that. That policy
alone cannot do this. It has to talk to the science, technology, and innovation policy, where the researchers are, where the scientists are, where the engineers who are crunching the numbers, doing all these estimates and translating it into things that are workable. Then it must talk to the education policy, where massively we are producing the manpower in universities, in polytechnics, in colleges of education, to absorb this technological culture so that we can be able to also be productive and manufacturing. That alone will not end unless we have a very matured, which I'm happy to report that the industry ministry again got approval, the intellectual property policy, which will now say, look, if we have it, we will use it. You cannot come here and do a commercial injury to us because we have the technology, we're not going to pay for your technology. So all this gamut of policies must also be mixed, not just the energy. And we must be able to sustain that trajectory of learning. Our professors must be useful to us, the engineers, the social scientists must be useful to tell our people that we're gaining. The researchers must be able to translate their output into tangible things to produce power and other things. So this is how countries grow. And as long as we just concentrate on at the procurement level, at the consumption level, that is not sustainable.
Well, Prof. We talk about timelines.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. The timeline, and it must be also activity-oriented. Beyond timelines, it's short-term, immediate, and long-term. But we talk about scenarios now. You don't do timelines now because, why I say scenarios, because an indicator today that is weak can be strong tomorrow. So you carry in there. Let me give you an instance. SDG has 17 goals, but there are over 266 indicators in that 17, but it's still carried on. So it's a scenario plan. Between now and 10 years or 5 years, assembly plants is okay. Okay? By that time, you begin to look at technology transfer, importation is reduced. We can say in the next scenario of 20, 30 years, can begin to look at that plants. So it's something, and government should be intentional about it. The policies that are there, regulations, like I keep saying this, we have the Act, LC Act, we have the Climate Change Act, we also have the ETP. So it's not about policies and regulations that are there, but governments, the policymakers should be intentional about it and create the enabling environment for local investors. For crying out loud, honestly, I keep saying that Egypt got out of this energy access and security because they were intentional about capacity building and development. And they created that same scenario, okay? And so when you look at over 80% access and all that. So it's not about policy issues, rhetorics, we come here and talk. Let there be action. Let there be a serious net on the side of government. Like I keep saying it, and I keep saying it, the greatest thing that happened to this government is the Elections Act of 2023. No matter how you play about the state government that through an opinion that was given to them.
Are you disappointed that not many have
Not many. Most states are grandstanding. I'm sorry. Not up to 20% of them. Look at the round table as provided by Rural Electricity Agency. Honestly speaking, under the Act, I really shouldn't have been out of it. But they have the statistics, they have the capacity, they have the information, the information to pass on to the states. Come, let's have a roundtable. As I speak to you now, they have not up to 20 of states have been involved in the roundtable. What are we talking about roundtable? This is what we have. We have this data. Okay, we're ready to give it to you. Even at the pro bono, can we collaborate so that we'll give you this opportunity in terms of capacity building, showing you direction. Give the local government opportunity, the autonomy. Why are you going there like a king, an imperial lord? Give the local autonomy for crying out loud. So, and that's what the REA has done. They have done very, very well. But most states have not seized that moment, that opportunity. For resource planning, they will give you the opportunity to go into the system. I followed REA for 3/4 of the roundtables. I'm very much impressed, because under the Act, they are out of it. But because they have the data, they have the statistics, that's why I say let's engage. So the most state have refused engaged. I don't know. An opportunity has left for them, and they're trying to train it out. It's unfortunate. You know, I'm very, very sad about what the states are doing. I'm telling you. Energy Act is this mix, is the Bible and the Quran of the mix. It's on the Energy Act. I keep saying it. But the states are not doing anything. They are grandstanding. Someone will come from US and UK and they want to give them 1,000 megawatts of solar. They go and clap hands. Whereas you have what you have here too. What is happening in this country? So it's that direction. The present government have shown the direction and have devolved. Go ahead, and they are not ready to seize the moment. It's unfortunate. I'm sorry to say it on the air.
Just as we started talking about what the benefits would be, we had this call. And even if he's not calling from a rural setting, because he's in Birnin Kebbi, which is the capital of the state, it does, reflect the kind of feeling and the needs that what people need is to have the power. And of course, the mix that we talk about would now make access, would now improve access. And that's what we had asked you to comment on. So we would tie this in with what Umar has just said. I mean,
It's very practical, what he just said. That look, I have my generator and I also have my main supply meter. I have credit in my meter and I have diesel in my generator. So I'm sitting there wanting power. If NEPA, like the code is, takes their light, I own my generator. But what he was saying was, NEPA brought light, he went and switched off his generator. On his way back into the house, NEPA carried the light again. So you see, colloquially, this is what, so his own is power. Mix or no mix, there should be power. So, but to be quite honest with you, the advantages, the merits of mixing it is that you can be able to prorata where to supply when it is heavy or light. In most rural areas in Nigeria, it is domestic lighting and in the house and so on and so forth. The maximum consumption of electricity in the houses are microwave if you have, or boiling your kettle if you have, but in rural areas they can use their firewood. But lighting for security, for education and so on is very, very important. Solar can actually fulfill, and Rural Energy Agency is doing very, very well in this. They are mapping the whole country, they are showcasing their capacity and capability and implementing plans where it is required to be able to provide in this kind of domestic, certainly not industrial, because industrial have very, very heavy, like Oga here said. So the advantages are there in terms of the mix. But for me, the most important thing is that currently, whether we are mixing or not, we are heavily depending on foreign technology and foreign expertise. This is not sustainable for Nigeria. Nigeria must have a very practical strategy to follow a trajectory to say that we will domesticate the competencies, we will domesticate a lot of the technologies, we will domesticate a lot of the know-how, so that we can be able to, as we mix, also be able to provide reliable power to our people.
Right, Prof.
Yes. You have said it, access. I don't know. Let's not. Yeah, it's good to be talking about blended form and all that. That's a mix. That's how do I achieve optimally? This at the end of the day, there is sustainability, sustainable development, and I keep saying it, that we should, as a matter of priority, look at the various mix. If you are in Niger Delta, in terms of scale of preference, natural gas is in large reserve. I look forward to the primacy of the states, 9 states in natural gas, taking that as a priority. As against solar, let me give you this. I'm not saying solar is not a priority, but this is the, in terms of economic, they have more of this. So be intentional about, developing this as a matter of fact. When you come to Sokoto, Katsina, we live in Equator, where there is high radiation. they should the level of technology in terms of renewable, it is only so that we can say the technology is evolving, that is up there. Okay? And I know wind is still at the periphery. So prioritize. It's very, very important to, even the solar home system, with solar home systems, can even have access to rural homes. Forget the grid system. I'm not saying the grid system, but so prioritize. Do we take, if we live in Benin Cable local government, can we use solar home system to look at the households? By so do last, what do they need? Fan. They need sewing machine and all that. That kind of, for those small and micro industries. So solar home system can enable us to have energy access and security, not the heavy duties. So that's why mapping is very, very important. Very, very important. It's not something, you can just do away with. So that's the mix. Let us have this understanding. The mix is, what do we do to enable us to have energy access and security? So if we can use solar home system to get households of 18 million people, we have 220 household of 7 or 8, and we have, most of this, maybe 1 million or 2 million households with solar home system. You are making a statement of regular lights, a statement of you can charge your phone, can do. So that's the point we are making. The hydro must also, if it must not be light, can be small hydro system, smaller hydro scale. So it's about prioritizing. They say when you bend down, you see Abba. That is the balance. Lose around.
Okay.
You prioritize. Each state should learn to prioritize and give the local government opportunity to participate in the energy mix as provided by the Electricity Act. I know why I keep referring to the Act. The Act is the ground. It is what will make investors to come in. Okay. We have the Act. So that's, I don't know, we've not talked about the investment flow and all that and what are the opportunities. But we're still talking about the mix. It is something that we should, at the level of both federal, state, and local government, should, state and local, subnational, should, as a matter of fact, prioritize.
Let's go over to the minister who's with us here. And what we're looking at here is the plans that are in place. An example was given with the hub in Abuja here. I would like the minister to speak more. Right.
Well, I think that, when I spoke about the Do Industrial Cluster, what I said was that we're using the Do Industrial Cluster as a template, to see how we can expand to other parts of the country. So having visited the Do, and we work in the ministerial roundtable on energy, we had in that same room the Minister of Power, representatives from Commission, we had all of these stakeholders in the room. We had NEC, so all of these have different responsibilities. And what it is that we're working with all of these agencies to see how to get power, to get energy, to do those.
Oh dear.
And see how, how much time and how much resources it is going to require. And one of the agencies has undertaken to provide the entire cost that is going to be required, to do the kind of see how across other industry, especially in terms of the constraint reasonably, is that to put their growth processing zones in terms of industrial corridors, just so that we can have common services, for different, in terms of the MSMEs as well. When you talk about MSMEs, you're talking about solar energy and all that is a bit, going to be a bit more useful, to sort, so, increasingly and gradually, going to be able to. But what we have understood and appreciated is that energy remains key. When you were asking earlier on about what would be the benefits, you know, you just need to have some kind of engagement.
Well, we'll try and return to the minister. Yes.
I want us to use this opportunity to also enlighten our rural populace and Nigerian. When we are talking of industry, let's now let them also know that when you are talking of energy mix, it also concerns citizens. In the sense that if there's small water or river that pass through your village, you can also, as a community, generate electricity through that and give your own village. You don't necessarily need to wait. And then when you are talking of these renewable energies, e.g. the solar energy, they can also, our rural populace can key into this area of solar energy. And then when you are also talking of our farmers in the rural places, we should also enlighten them to know that their waste, their farm waste, can be as gas for them, so that they can also use it to generate electricity. That is why we are talking of mixed energy. This will give everybody opportunity to have 3 or 4, like in my house example. While you have the national grid, we also have the solar, and then in that, yes, that's even in the house, not even in the factory. You have the solar, you have the national grid, then you will also have the maybe other district around.
One aspect you raised there, we'll talk about it, and the Prof will speak more on it. That has to do with bio, but we've heard a lot of suggestions going on how this can be sustainable. Key, I still want to return to that factor, the skills gap. What needs to be addressed in the energy sector?
I think the signals so far, since the changes in the economics and also the increase in consumption of electricity, the way solar has crept into the lives of Nigerians is actually unbelievable. Because the cost of the mains power has gone high based on all these reforms of tariffs, and also the need for Nigerians to actually have power. Solar has just penetrated Nigeria. Literally every state governor now have some streets with street light solar. The government houses have now gotten solar power plants all over the place, including the villa. They also have a power plant. I went to Niger State. I saw in the government house a big power plant. So just like you said, this particular trajectory of mixing is ensuring that although, yes, we're importing solar panels, we're importing inverters, we're importing batteries and so on and so forth, but the training institutions, the small companies training on how to assemble and install these has actually exploded too.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll see how far they have penetrated. We've spoken about some of the challenges and the major setbacks. One caller, if I do recall clearly, talked about investments and how more investment can be attracted into this sector, the Nigerian energy sector.
Thank you, sir, once again. Investment in terms of infrastructure. Now, Nigeria has large deposit of rare earth elements like lithium and all that. They use these minerals to produce batteries and all of that. Nasarawa is a case study. Can we begin to discern this to soft mapping too? The infrastructure cannot be, it's not federal government now. I still go back to the Industry Act. Let's prioritize infrastructural investments. Let's prioritize human capital resources investments. Let's also prioritize news around to look at the funding windows. There are windows that will enable you to attract funds is not a loan, grant. Like if you are moving into energy transition, this renewable energy, there's so much under Green Climate Fund for you to access this funding for this infrastructure development. But you cannot do that if you don't follow the methodology. There are protocols on how to access funds that enable us to drive infrastructure investment. Those protocols, have we done it? Under the Paris Agreement, yes, we are seated to NDC. Under the Paris Agreement, we have carbon market mechanism now. But there are methodologies on have we put in place our MRV, measurement, reporting, and verification, for us to, you must be MRV compliant for you to access this funding for infrastructure development in this area. So that's the thing. So beyond the states, how many of the states has talked about what is MRV? Let's assume that those that have mapped their resources, have they conducted MRV for their state that will enable them, position them for attracting investment or funding windows for investment?
Yes, Dr. Yes.
Let me talk to you. You see, no country on earth will allow you to develop your own energy or whatever unless you make an effort as a country. And what effort we made? We have rare earth minerals that are being produced for any type of energy in Nigeria, including lithium, uranium, and all this. Until we take advantage, comparative advantage of what we have to build what we need. Now we need energy. We lost it in the oil sector. We allow the oil to go instead of telling them to build a refinery before we can give you license, or we give you license within 1 year you must build a refinery, or we revoke. It will. Now, on the energy sector, the rare everything is here. For you to do solar, you need lithium, you need silver, or other things. And wherever they graduate to, we still have those rare earth minerals here. So therefore, there must be, governments will bring up a policy with which to say, for you to take our lithium, you must come and produce your battery in Nigeria. And then 40 or 30% of those things must be sold here. For you to produce panel, before you know it, they need it. Our industrial sector, the manufacturers of this product will spring up in Nigeria, and they will light even our rural area. But if we continue going for loan, going for this, and then the same people that come to take our rare earth, we take loan and give them in the name that they are coming back to invest in Nigeria. They invest our money as a loan in our country. So all I'm saying, as a country and as people, it is time we bring up a policy that you don't take anything out of the country, you must process it, and then 40 or 50% of those processed must be left in Nigerian for Nigerian market.
All right. We come up across a study by ICED, Nigeria's International Center for Energy and Development, about the best sand dunes in Nigeria. And we discovered that Yobe and Bonny had the best sand dunes. And that sand dunes can, if it's further investigation, can produce silica. So I organized 5 teams of researchers. I said, okay, if Bill Gates can fund Celtic Institute, headed by Professor Nathan, on solar fuel, and as at that time, it was over $2 billion on solar fuel, and they said they attained 80% certainty. Okay, can I write to Dangote to also invest sort of maybe it's $100 million and all that? Let's see how we can get this Borno, Yobe, Adamawa, in those sand dunes. So we wrote to him, and the person that replied us was the Honorable Makojo, he's late now, that's saying to our request, and that we're ready to come and do a proof of concept about this research. That was 2017. Unfortunately, Makojo died, so nothing has. So can we also this is intentional, where we can interrogate sand dunes, because that's what we can do.
Silica supply.
Silica supply, honestly. And so it's possible.
It's high-tech.
It's high-tech, so it's possible that we can kick that conversation. So all these things, don't go to put money in oil and gas, let's put it on renewables. 1%, $100 or $200 million we can come together. So, and that's serious. Lead the conversation. We have a team of researchers, and of course, I've said we can. Celtic Institute, Professor Nathan, Google it. $2.3 billion was invested on solar fuel. And when tomorrow now, when Bill Gates takes over, they say, what is it? This is somebody who's intentional about research. Let's be very serious about research and innovation. It's very critical. That's what I want for us to make a headway in this energy mix. Research and innovation should be encouraged.
Speaking of which, we'll go to the engineer.
So please,
and to see the place of technology in all of this, and as you've just said, research, which is also a key factor in all of this. Dr. Binder.
I think Nigeria has to continue to look back historically and learn. Everybody tends to give Nigerian investment climate some credit because of the proliferation of telephone. But this proliferation has not led us to electronics manufacturing, to manufacturing of micro batteries, to manufacturing of glass, whatever. We are just consuming. And that is, we clap ourselves. The same thing happened with Keke Napep. Nobody talks about that. This Keke Napep, I was the desk officer. It started with a technology transfer concept. We even approached Piaggio, the owners of the Total Technology, and they indicated that if Nigeria manages to purchase 10,000 units, they will gradually start transferring the technology on how to make this and that and that. Today, we have over 30 million Keke Napeps. We're not making anything, possibly including even the tarpaulin cover. Nigeria must learn. Now this solar has come. I can tell you the revolution in the energy is now beginning to creep in. I have seen Nigerian young people who are manufacturing power banks. I have seen Nigerian small companies actually innovating different things because of the cheapness and availability of solar and battery, to make sure that in schools there are lights, you can carry your light with you to go and study based on solar. Something tells you that because the sun recharges that bulb, it is free. So I think gradually we're entering into the power mix very, very progressively, in my opinion. But as Prof said, we must also deliberately say that we must encourage our scientists to penetrate these technology-based things. And I can tell you, my study, or the studies that we have conducted in most countries, that the president himself must lead this. Unless the president, because this is multi-sectoral. There's no minister that can call another minister to come and do this and that. So there must be a national council on science, technology, and innovation, chaired by the president himself, to say that in the next 3 years, we are going to domesticate making batteries. Where are the chemists? Where are the production engineers? And then in Ministry of Industry, the industrial policy will reflect that. And the Ministry of Science and Technology, the research institution, will reflect that. And this committee will be meeting possibly every 2 months to make sure that the timeline with the activities are actually achieved. This is achievable and it's possible. But as you said, we must be very, very clearly committed, and we can achieve this if we are.
I have a point of information.
Yes.
Right, I was part of the team, National Research Council. The president has taken that leadership. The council is, I think, he's waiting for FEC for approval. It's been, I think it was the State Fund. We had the arrowhead of that. So right now, and of course, given that potential approval, so what we need to do, we're looking for FEC to really give that approval, the approval of the study that has been done, the report that has been done, and the president gave the approval for that. So I think we're waiting for FEC approval. So I just want to put this correction.
Part of the committee.
Absolutely. So,
with a few minutes left on this program, this is where we take our winding down comments, closing comments before we leave. And let's start with you, Dr. Shitu.
So I think where Nigerian is quite developing in terms of mixed energy, and I know there's serious progress, and Nigerians are enjoying it. It's not bad as what people are thinking. You can see that at least 30 to 40% of our rural areas today are being powered individually, government, local government, by the solar energy system. And then we just need more enlightenment for them to know that there are various energy that they can tap into. And I want to urge our federal government that we've spent so much money on talking of getting energy for Nigeria. Nuclear should be looked into. Nuclear will help the country because most of the country that we have the same population, or the Americans have it, the Indians have it, but ours is for peaceful purpose. This is what I'm preaching, is for peaceful purpose, because you cannot be industrial, you can't industrialize without energy. And the fear of either the disposal of it or how to dispose anything, the other countries have overcome that fear. And I believe that we will learn from that and put up our nuclear energy to be able to power 220-something million homes that Nigeria has.
All right.
thank you, sir. Thank you. I mean, energy mix has come to stay because with energy mix, we'll be able to empower the people. Once the people are empowered, there will be prosperity in the land, economic growth. And when there is prosperity in the land, the propensity to preserve the planet is assured. And it's only then that you see the robustness of partnership, be it at the local, state, national, and all that. And of course, there will be peaceful coexistence. That's what I'm talking about. So energy mix is key for sustainable development.
All right. Thank you so much, Dr. Bindel.
Yeah, just to reiterate, energy is absolutely necessary for our development, and for us to sustain it, there must be more energy. And as far as I'm concerned, I think Nigeria can do it. We have the raw materials to enrich, to make sure that we get to it. We have the gas, we have the silica, we have the solar, and we also have the scientists. This country has over 300 universities, more than 600 research institutions with PhDs and professors. The commitment must be there. Industrialization is not a function of intelligence. Industrialization is a function of culture. We must be less corrupt or no corrupt at all. We must work hard, and we must be able to target young people to ensure that they can create, they can innovate, and if we do that, we can be able to attain the energy supply through this mix and even sustain it for our development.
All right, and it's on that note we'll have to leave this conversation. Earlier on, we had the Minister of State for Industry, Senator John Eno. Unfortunately, we lost that line quite a while ago, and we tried so much to get him back online. That wasn't possible. But all the same, we'd like to appreciate him for the period he spent with us on this program. We appreciate him, and we look forward to asking him to clarify some other issues to do with the industrialization of Nigeria at some other point in time. So thank you to Minister of State for Industry, Senator John Eno. Thank you. And for our other guests in the studio here, Dr. Umar Bindir, Professor Magnus Onoha, and Dr. Shitu Mohammed Kabir, we also thank you for your contributions.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
All right. And that's it. We thank you for watching. Next week, we'll be back with NTA Tuesday Live. I'm Cyril Stover. Bye for now.